pretty close to the median age of the listener at 99.5.
I would say you're near the lower end of the listener to know.
Probably so. So those people would remember Rod Davis. So yeah.
But no one in management does. No one knows who he is.
You know who's going to be making that? You know who's going to be making that decision possibly?
Huh.
My former program director will be probably making that decision. He's one of the few that's still hanging on there. Let's see what we got here.
All right. I think
what I'm doing right now, as we speak, is I'm simmering some homemade pizza sauce.
Yeah.
As it turns out, buying a waffle iron was a really bad investment for me because I'm using that son of a bitch all the time.
I just want you to know that I'm simmering 24 hours a day.
And I'm burning. And as Little Roy says, I'm burning for you.
That's first cousin of seething.
All right, I'm shared.
Okay. Apparently I am too. Let me see.
All right, quick discussion. Who is on the Mount Rushmore of Triad radio talents? Go. And why is it you? Have you looked in your bank account? Did you get your Uncle Joe check yet?
I'll tell you what, we're going to have to stop the podcast about every 4 minutes so I can keep checking.
I got mine. It's in there.
You did?
And I haven't spent it yet, believe it or not.
Well, shit. I'll tell you what. We'll start, and I'll do a live check-in. Right.
It just kills you that I've got it and you don't. That just destroys you. You can't handle it.
It does, Mr. Hendry. It's just kicking my ass.
The funny thing about the Phil Hendry show is the number of male characters who come off as so macho, they end up crying like 3 minutes into the thing. It's like anytime they're the most sensitive bunch of losers. Oh God, I'm ready when you are, man.
All right. It is the Brad and Britt cast, our second one for the week. And we're in a little contest here, and I've already lost, haven't I?
Yeah, you lose.
You got your money first, and I'm looking at mine, and it's not there.
And the sad thing is, you probably donated to the Biden campaign. I didn't give him any money at all.
Yeah,
that's the sad thing.
That would be the priority by which the money is dispersed. No, it's just not there. But
I know that I just heard that there were a bunch of Wall Street idiots that are saying there's going to be just a glut of human beings buying stock once that $1,400 gets into the account. And I don't know if that's accurate or if that's their disconnect from what average Americans are doing. Like they're blowing the money on rent and food and stuff, and they don't understand. I don't know if that's the case or not.
I think there's a lot of truth to it because a lot of people are getting the money who don't need it. It's just that's just the way this is.
Right.
Tens of millions of people are getting the money, and I'm not proud. I'm telling you, I don't need the money.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely do not need the money. So
well, I can use it.
I'm not going to throw money into the market. I have plenty of money in the markets already, and I don't need to do any more. In fact, on Monday, I ran to Costco. I never do this. I ran to Costco because we suddenly decided that we had to have a Gorilla paper shredder.
Oh,
a Gorilla paper shredder. I have one. In fact, I could bring it around. I have a little, the one that's like this big. The one.
Like it's a monster.
Yeah, it takes forever. Like you put more than one sheet of paper in there, and the thing stops, and you want
gets gummed up. Sure.
So I had to upgrade it. I ran over there and got one. So there's my first $100 out of my $1,400. going
Good job.
a paper shredder. And it's not because we need to shred papers that if they were found by certain authorities could be used against us in a court of law in a lawsuit by a certain person over a certain thing. That's not the reason that you ever buy a paper shredder. Let that be a lesson to you. Okay.
Now, has Tucker Carlson been successful in kicking every woman out of the United States military because they were feminizing our military? Has he been able to do that or no?
No, but I have to open up and be honest. And anyone that looks at my Facebook page will see, and you can decide whether this brands me as such an old fart and beyond hope that there's just no point in living anymore. All right. This morning in the local paper, they had a big picture of Beyonce, and over her was this headline: "Who run the Grammys?" All right. Now, don't interrupt me. Don't interrupt me. Don't interrupt.
The floor is yours.
Don't interrupt me. Now, as you know, and I've said it a million, I pay no attention, none, to current popular music. Zero. I never listen to over-the-air radio, certainly never over-the-air top 40 radio or what passes for top 40 radio these days that's playing the hits. And I never watch the award shows anymore. I don't care. I admit it. I don't care.
Right. But that's not a new development either. That's been going on for a while.
Been going on for a while. On Monday night, Stephen Colbert had Ringo Starr on for a half hour, and it was fucking great. I thought that was great. Ringo I can't believe the guy's going to be 80 this year, and he's unbelievable. He really, truly, and he's, that's music to me. It still is. I admit it. So the headline in the paper is, "Who run the Grammys?" And I'm thinking, is this another misprint? Is this another misprint by the paper? And of course, I later find out that I guess that's the name of one of her songs, right? Her biggest song, "Who Run the World."
Yeah, it's like a thing. Yeah.
It is a thing. But to me, because I don't pay the assumption by I'm going to defend myself here slightly. The use of that phrasing in a publication that is primarily read by no one, repeat, no one under about 55 anymore. We're the only ones that still get printed words on dead trees thrown. To use that, I'm going to defend myself and say, I'm glad I didn't get it. I don't need to get it. It will not help me. It doesn't mean anything.
When you start getting it.
Right. But I also admit that the Dr. Rick progressive commercial, now it's me, Dr. Rick, the guy who goes around and explains everything to everybody. And right. Okay. So there you go. Have at it. Take a shot at me.
No, I don't blame you at all for that. I like popular music. I listen to some popular music and some current artists and stuff like that. I think I'm pretty good about that for somebody who's my age and a male, but I recognized at least the names of maybe 20% of those people that I was looking at, and I didn't care, and I wasn't going to watch it. You know, I saw a bunch of people who were around my age, and I was born at the end of the 60s, the beginning of the 70s, and they were like, "Well, I'm not watching the Grammys because they're going to do a Black Lives Matter thing." I'm like, motherfucker, you weren't going to watch anyway. They're not missing anything, dude. The Eddie Van Halen tribute, I understand, was 15 seconds anyway. If that's your your gauge.
But that's exactly the point. These shows are now at the point where even someone like Eddie Van Halen, who wasn't 80, was in his low 60s.
Yeah.
And the height of his popularity was in the 80s.
It was 37 years ago. 36 or 37 years ago was when that band was super hot.
So I even kind of, in my own way, predate music before him.
Sure.
And that music is now officially non-acknowledged on shows like that. You're not going to, the Stones aren't going to come out and play. The Don Henley it's gone. It's over. It's now, but not to me. And I don't apologize for that.
Yeah,
So
that's fine. That's fine.
I'm fine with it.
But do you know who run the Grammys? Do you know who run it now?
Yeah, who run it? Yeah, they do. They do.
Great story on Mediaite. They're highlighting Dr. Deborah Birx opening up about the extremely uncomfortable moment when Trump proposed injecting disinfectant. I still think about it every day. It's a great story to remember because we still remember it a little bit now that people are injected at 3 and 4 million a day. And it's good news for this country. We are building up what they call true herd immunity, not just go out there and cough on each other, which I think was the proposal of some idiots back in late last year. You get 3 and 4. You got to remember back to the trauma that we suffered through, and one of them was the inject bleach into your veins and take hydroxychloroquine and all this other horse shit. Right?
Here's the point, and I think we've been fairly consistent about this going back years. And Deborah Birx was just one of many along the way. And she would have you believe, even now, that because she is a doctor and was in the position of, quote, trying to save the country, that she would get the pass the same way as all the other people who would say, I can't quit because I'll get replaced by someone who's worse than me, and I need to save the country. That was her take then, whether she was saying it or not. And now she reveals that she really was thinking that. She was thinking that if you got rid of me, well, fuck, you got Dr. Scott Atlas anyway. And Trump didn't listen to you anyway. So we got Dr. Scott fucking Atlas anyway. And I'm sorry, but the only thing that would have mattered along the way the last year during Trump bungling everything would have been for someone like her to quit and then scream from the mountaintops. Now, we said it about Fauci also, but Fauci was in a little bit different kind of position.
He was.
He was, and he's there to still fight the war. She wasn't, and she isn't, and I just consider her to be a weak hand at the poker table here last year, and that she should have quit on the spot. The minute he started talking about putting bleach in there or putting a fluorescent light up your ass or whatever he was doing, and that famous piece of video of her sitting there thinking what she was thinking, it would have been much better for her to stand up right then and say, I'm done, and I'm going to hold a press conference in 1 hour, and I'm going to reveal exactly what is going on and what the politics are. There is no law against someone like her becoming an overt political person at that moment. None whatsoever. There's nothing in the Hippocratic Oath that says, first, do no politics. It doesn't work that way.
No, not at all.
Not when you are working for an administration that has politicized, and at great cost to tens, hundreds of thousands of people, politicized the worst pandemic since the Spanish flu of 1917, 1918. So I consider her just weak, and I don't really give a shit what she says now. She blew it. She had a chance to.
Well, this does seem,
and she didn't do the right thing.
On some level, it does seem to be some legacy polishing. It looks like it's what she's trying to do here.
There's no legacy for her. There is no legacy.
Well, it's a bad one. It's a bad one. If she had done what you suggested and get up and go, I'm not going to do this anymore. This guy's an idiot. I don't know how many lives might have been saved. I don't know how many lives if she would have said the emperor has no clothes. That might have been the case, though. If she or somebody else had said, F it, I quit. This is going to cause people to die. He's not doing the right thing. And now for the SOB to be down there in Florida wanting credit, wondering why people are not showering him with praise as people are getting vaccinated, kiss my ass.
That's done. We're done with that. We're just done. We're just done with even for 1 second giving Donald Trump any kind of credit for what is going on now. No, he didn't invent the vaccine. No, he didn't fund the vaccine in a way that no other president would have funded the vaccine. We've been through this. It's over. And now we're up to 3 million people a day. It might be more soon.
Yeah.
And the only thing now that can stop the country from moving forward over a period of a couple months and getting back to the place where most of us will be able to do a lot of the things that we used to is our own stupidity, including the famous Republican white males that we talked about on the previous podcast.
Absolutely.
Who think they know better and do not want that injection that would allow Bill Gates to speak to them every day. And by the way, they've got a point, because it was Bill Gates who said to me just before this podcast started, don't even think about putting in the wireless headphones in your ears for this podcast today. Use the wired ones. He told me to do it.
That's what he said.
I listened to him.
This is what I hear from people like Bill Gates. They're working on a device that you carry around everywhere that's going to track your movements anyway. I don't know if that's ever going to happen. It sounds like some crazy shit out of the future.
I don't think so. Now, this thing
that's different.
That I'm holding up an iPhone. That doesn't track me. That's
nothing. No, that's not.
Because I can opt out of that, so I don't have to worry.
But a chip that goes in your skull, that's the real threat here. That's and Bill Gates is completely behind that. The only thing I would do as far as diving into the weeds a little bit, you've read a bit about the Johnson & Johnson, the single shot vaccine, and they keep coming up with the efficacy rate in their early studies of 70%. And that's being seen as, well, that's why you're trying to give it to some folks that are in more challenged populations, because it's a less effective vaccine. It's not. The truth of the matter is, their study, they went after some really high risk folks. And that's why that efficacy rate was not in the 80s and 90s like the Moderna and the Pfizer one was. It's still a very effective vaccine. And it's not a lesser vaccine that's going to be given to folks like homeless people and stuff like that. It's just much easier. You don't have to worry about the refrigeration and the storage of it as you would with Pfizer and Moderna and some of those other ones, right?
Hey, Britt, if the true idiot resistors were nuanced enough to even understand what you just said, we'd be pretty far along. But the answer is they're not. You went way over their heads.
Yeah, no, they're not gonna.
Right. But the only thing you left out was that the fact of the matter is, all three of the currently available vaccines do a near 100% job, not a 94, not a 60, not a 7, a 100% job of preventing death, and a near 100% job of preventing you from having to be hospitalized. Now you can just stop there. Everything else, and we're hung up on the initial number that gets released that you talked about. And by the way, I don't think most of the people who think they're objecting to something or don't want government control or think it wasn't tested well enough or all the other dumbass excuses that they have, or the famous Madison Cawthorn excuse that he's giving. So he says that so many people recover from the virus that to him it's not worth it to get the vaccine. That's his excuse. I mean, these are all the geniuses.
How many people recover from spinal cord injuries, Brad? Did anybody ask him that? If he's going to walk up out of that wheelchair any second now, or is that?
I think you needed to go there. That was not necessary.
I'm just saying, since we're talking about being able to recover from stuff.
Do you have any Greg Abbott jokes while you're at it?
I don't have any Greg Abbott jokes. I'm talking about a guy who's being a complete asshole.
How about Lloyd Campanella? That was pretty funny too.
Yeah, I feel bad for taking a shot at the guy that took a picture in at the bunker of Adolf Hitler, his hero. I feel so bad for that, Brad. Ooh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to sleep tonight. Jeez Louise. If you would ask any of those people who are now long haulers, and we're talking about people in some cases that are in their 20s.
You mean like truck drivers who drive all night?
That's right. The ones that go from here to California.
Those are long haulers.
You talk about some of those long haulers who are going to have health and breathing problems for decades. If you ask any of them and they say, if there was a shot you could take that would have prevented this, would you go back in time and take that? They would say, fuck you, Mr. Cawthorn. That's what they would say. They would take that shot right now. And if somebody had come to me and said, well, all we have is the Johnson & Johnson shot for you, I'd be like, sign me up. Go ahead and put that in my arm right freaking now. Yeah, whatever you got, I'll take.
I think that issue has somewhat faded. That seemed to be cooking real hot a couple weeks ago.
Exactly.
It's faded a little bit now, and that people aren't objecting to J&J. That's what we in in pharma call it. J&J.
Oh, J&J.
Yeah.
Are you a stockholder? Do you have any shares or any exposure to Johnson & Johnson?
Yes.
It's good. It's a solid company. They do well. They're pretty well run from what I hear.
The best balance sheet of any company in the United States of America. The best rock solid balance sheet.
Even
Not
after those
recommending it, but if you want the one that'll still be standing when everything dies, it'll be them.
Even after that baby powder payoff, they're still rocking and rolling, still liquid.
Yes,
God bless them.
They are not just liquid, really liquid.
Really, really super liquid, like so liquid. You're also not hearing from these anti-vax people. Like in the beginning, there would be these wild cases of somebody took the shot somewhere who already had a number of health challenges and they got sick, but they were treated. You're not even hearing that stuff anymore. They're not even throwing up that shit anymore, right?
Well, you're going to keep getting anecdotal stories because if you give millions of people anything, if you give 3 million people every day a cookie, okay, all right, and somebody drops dead within the next 12 hours, it isn't automatically the cookie. It just isn't. And we're just dealing with the law of large numbers here, that over a period of time, I mean, some people feel bad after their second shot, but the most optimistic number I've seen in the last few days is, and this is one that I don't think we anticipated, which is that only 3% of people who have gotten on the Moderna or the Johnson & Johnson, take that over, the Moderna or the Pfizer regimen where you need the second shot, only 3% of them have not gotten that second shot. 97% of people went back to get the second shot. And we thought for a while that a lot of people were going to say, oh, fuck it. I hear that one shot gives you a lot of protection. I don't have time to get the second one. But then if you do reverse engineering on the mindset, anybody that's had the good sense to get the vaccine, it turns out 97% of them were conscientious enough to realize that the best thing they could do is not just get the first shot, but get that second shot too. And so that's kind of a good thing. But again, that does not include all the people outside the circle who decided they're going to resist this and go down fighting or whatever they think they're going to do and not get it. So.
Well, we need to talk about something uncomfortable that we haven't addressed head on per se.
Not more Mr. Potato Head. I can't. No, I don't want.
It's not Mr. It's just potato. It's very gender fluid and nothing really changed there. How are we going to deal with this Cuomo situation? And are the Democrats handling it correctly? And does this guy just have to go? Is he done? Because you're seeing more and more people jump over that transom and they're saying he's got to go. He's got to get out. He is an impediment to anything that the Democrats want to do, to their agenda, to anything at all. He is just a pariah at this point.
In New York.
Absolutely. But he was considered as, there was a period of time last year when he was the anti-Trump. He was the solution to Donald John Trump. Yeah, he wasn't going to run, obviously.
That didn't last very long. I don't think that's.
And you've now read the stories, and the stories are that he's a lot more like Donald Trump than we ever thought or suspected. The ego, the hubris, the arrogance, all of that seems to be extremely Trumpy to me. Are the Democrats handling this correctly? And is the right thing for him to do just to get the hell out and to go?
Well, I was thinking about the true Machiavellian strategy that may be going on, and I have no idea whether this makes any sense or not. But because of what Governor Ralph Northam did in Virginia 3 years ago, when all those pictures of him in Klan outfits at a fraternity party when he was in medical school showed up. Remember that scandal?
I do remember it.
And we had everybody from here to the moon who was a Democrat, and of course Republicans behind the scenes. He's got to go. We cannot have that. And and these aren't 100% comparable, because when you think about it, being in a picture 40 years ago does not compare. And he wasn't the governor then. He wasn't anybody then. That does not compare with the current behavior of a sitting governor with people right now in his job. Okay, there is no real comparison. But Northam hung tough. He hung tough, and he did not resign. And they wanted him to go. They wanted him to go, but he was popular within his state, and Democrats liked the job that he was doing. And I think at that point, not everybody below him in the administration was another Democrat. I mean, there were a lot of politics involved in trying to push him out. But he hung tough, and it kind of faded. It kind of faded. Now, this doesn't seem like it's going to fade in 3 weeks or even a month, but at the same time, Andrew Cuomo is just as stubborn as Ralph Northam, certainly more so. He's more obnoxious, more dug in than Northam probably ever has been. Plus, you do have, I hate to say this, you do have the Trump factor here, which is, and Andrew Cuomo isn't going to say it. No one's going to say it, but it's true. If Trump can, quote, get away with what he did, then is what Andrew Cuomo the things he's accused of, are they equal to, not as bad as, or worse than what Trump did? And right now, you can play, and I think, again, Joe Biden, for whatever people have been saying about him for the last few years, he seems to know just how far to go on a lot of these things. And he's giving everybody the room, and he's playing there's an investigation going on card. And my original idea that I was starting to talk about was maybe the Democrats are playing this good cop, bad cop game around Cuomo, giving him time and giving the story time to not continue to blow up every day. And then, as you know, we have an attention span in America of about 3 minutes, and that they can tough it out. And of course, the out for Cuomo is to say, I'm hanging tough. The people elected me, but I've decided to spend more time with, I'm sorry, he doesn't have a family. I guess he does. He has kids.
Well, he does. Stop it. I think he's still with Sandra Lee. I think he's still with her.
No. Oh,
she's gone?
No. Okay.
She's off?
By the way, you think you saying that is as bad or worse than me not knowing one fucking thing about Beyonce? That's been a dead letter for years.
Damn, that's unfortunate.
She walked out on him. If she was still with him, don't you think her name would be in every story?
Well, unless she could keep it out of it, I think so. Yeah, for God's sakes, she's a lovely woman. We talked about her with his brother Chris when we were on the radio one time.
I know, but hold on. So the idea here is that they're running a different kind of game than was run with Al Franken, and Al Franken could have not resigned. He could have let it play out. He could have let there be some kind of Senate investigation and blah, blah. And he could have toughed it out, but he decided not to. And between Cuomo looking at Al Franken and looking at Donald Trump and looking at Ralph Northam, the governor of Virginia, he's saying, I don't care what they say. I didn't rape anybody. I didn't, blah, these are terrible stories. I'm a bad guy, blah, blah, but I'm a good governor. People elected me 3 times. Fuck you. Okay. I'm not defending Andrew Cuomo because he seems like about 3 bosses that we worked for. Okay.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. I think he's way more talented and competent. But yeah, as far as temperament goes, I can think of about 3 guys. He's like, sure.
But his way out, I think, is going to be, I'm not quitting, but I'm not going to run for re-election, and that way, he doesn't have to go out a loser. He doesn't
let the voters decide. Yeah.
He doesn't have to lose in a primary, because if he loses in a primary, okay, then that's the ultimate. The Democrats turn on him. General election, he would win tomorrow,
right,
in New York. But it's not going to be a general election, and he's going to get primaried. There's no doubt about that if he decides to run again. So he doesn't want to be a loser in a primary. So
There's this story in the New York Post about him being obsessed with his hand size. Gene keeps referencing this on our chat. He keeps saying there's something about his hand size. Is that the new Larry Craig wide stance? Was that hand size?
That's the new Marco Rubio going after Trump over hand size when remember what Trump
tiny hands.
He said, I don't have any problem with my hand size. I don't have any trouble down there either, or something. Remember that?
Something like that. So that's stupid. That's what Cuomo's trying to telegraph, that his penis is huge because he has big hands.
Yeah,
that's nice. No,
well,
I don't know about
is that story like a current or is that something he said to people in the past?
Well, some aide is now coming forward with that. Is saying that and again it's in the New York Post, so it's got to be true. Well, there's no question about it. A former aide, Charlotte Bennett, told independent investigators about the governor's alleged preoccupation with his hand size and what that supposedly meant, her lawyer said on Monday. She also turned over some records.
Can I tell you something? When the stories start to move in that direction, I think that was peak idiocy. And now Cuomo has a better chance of surviving than he did 2 days ago or 3 days ago. If they're down to that kind of crap.
But the game to run for him is like just what you try to do if you're Andrew Cuomo is you try to say, okay, this is all they have against me. And then this other stuff with the nursing home stuff and, jiggering around with the numbers on that stuff. To me, that's the meat of the sandwich right there. That's much more troubling than the other things.
Well, it's not just that. I think you're half and 150% right at the same time, which is if none of this scandal shit with the women had ever happened, he theoretically could have been taken out and impeached or forced to resign over something that's really, really important, which is apparently lying about the number of people who had died in nursing homes and moving them around and intimidating phone calls made on his behalf to people to not tell them that should be. But again, what era do we live in? We live in the post-Trump era.
Well, that's true.
What, you're going to throw a governor out just for that? Are you kidding? So I think he lives to be governor another day and many more days, at least until next fall when he decides. And I don't think he's going to run for re-election. You can say, look, I was a 3-term governor. I got reelected twice. That's pretty good. And I did a lot of good things for the state of New York. That's why they like me. And yeah, I have a gruff exterior, but that's how you get shit done in the state of New York. We don't play it like beanbag here, either up in beautiful Albany, New York.
Alan asks, are you guys talking about Cuomo or DeSantis? Well, DeSantis is his own brand of stupid. DeSantis continues to get people killed in the great state of Florida. That piece over the weekend in the New York Times is just frightening. Yeah, it's a horror show.
I think he's just at the beginning of presiding over what could be a total rebound of coronavirus
big
cases in the state of Florida, and by definition, that's the rest of the country, because most of those kids that are down there for spring break, they're not Floridians. They're coming from everywhere. They're coming from here.
They're going to do this very soon, and they just had a big outbreak in the WWE's little promotion. Their AAA known as NXT. They just had a bunch of people, of their performers.
Is that in Tampa?
It's in Orlando. That's in the Orlando area. But they're going to have WrestleMania in Tampa, April 10th and the 11th. They were asking for approximately 60% capacity. And I think based on what's going on now in Florida, I think Vince is going to ask DeSantis if he can go ahead and just go full capacity. Put 60,000 people in that thing and just rock and roll. Because Florida is nuts. Florida's off the chain right now.
Yeah, well, there's no way that he's not going to do that.
Exactly.
I think it's possible that he's not going to do that. And it's really a Florida versus Texas race now to see who can fly closest to the sun here, and not have their wings melt on them and drop back to earth here. That's my incredible mythology analogy here this afternoon. A lot of people.
Daedalus and Icarus. I remember it very well. It was a very good thing.
It's one of my favorite Emerson, Lake and Palmer albums.
The poll numbers are out on Cuomo in New York. 805 registered voters, Siena poll. 50% said he should not, NOT, resign. 35% say he should. His favorability has gone from 56% last month to 43% this month. And again, in the post-Trump era, that's not a bad number, right? That's not a bad number at all.
What are the dates that the people were surveyed? Because you got to think, if this is 5 days old, it doesn't matter anymore, because the people's opinions may be changing very, very quickly based on the quantity and quality of the new reporting that comes out about this. Plus, does this count? Does this include people who've seen him walking with a blanket over his shoulders, looking like a sad sack? I mean,
like a homeless guy.
If the survey was taken before that, then you definitely can't count it, right?
Well, it's published in today's, it's in the New York Times today. So I'm assuming they took this over the weekend is when they probably were able to take this one, but I haven't seen the specifics of it, but it was 805 people. So you're right. This does change on a daily basis. And some of the,
right. His popularity is not 12%. So the answer is he has a base constituency of 40 to 50% of people who are not going to abandon him under any circumstance. Sound familiar? Sound familiar.
Well, isn't it funny though that like Joe Biden has had a couple of pretty good months and he's at like 54 or something like that. And it just drives the Trump people nuts that he didn't get up there. He never got to that point.
Well, that may be his approval rating, but the ratings for the actual policies are in the mid to high 60s.
Yes, when you white label the policies, yes.
Right. But it's early, and as you know, what goes up comes down, and he's not going to stay at that level. Nobody's expecting it. And right now, since the latest headline in the world that we don't inhabit hour after hour is Biden's border crisis. It's right. Biden's border crisis. He started it. He invented it. He undid the greatness of the policies of the Trump era, and said, we're not going to separate children from their families. We're not going to kick everybody out that tries to apply for asylum. We're not going to warehouse kids in teeny tiny little places. We're going to look for alternatives. But we're going to at the same time try to discourage people from coming. A mixed message at best. We're bringing FEMA in. Yeah, it's a mess. It's a mess. But the messaging on this, and it was exactly what we thought on the previous podcast, and it turned out it was on Monday that a bunch of Republicans flew down to the border for their photo op, standing there with Kevin McCarthy leading the charge, saying, this is the Biden border crisis. This is all his fault. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so the good thing is that this is happening right at the beginning of Biden's presidency, and they have several months to get their shit together on this and fix it and do something a little bit different. Because of the short memory span that we have, that 6 months from now, we hopefully will not be talking about that they'll have this at some level solved, and it won't be solved by sending the U.S. military down to the border and starting to gun down people in mass numbers, which was in effect the Trump solution.
A final solution, some might say.
Yes.
Some would say that was
yes, it was.
Listen to these. This is, and I know you're right. What goes up must come down. I get that. The Real Clear Politics average, 52.8. Disapprove is 42. That's a spread of 10.8. Unheard of to have a positive 10-point spread over the past 4 years. It was just insane. Listen to some of the spreads in the individual polls. Politico, Morning Consult. This was from March 6th through the 8th. A plus 22. Reuters, Ipsos, March 10th and the 11th, a plus 15 spread, a plus 16 spread in the Hill. I mean, this has to be driving some people crazy. And I know it's not always going to be like this. I know that hey, he's ducking them. He's not doing any press conferences. He's hiding in the basement again. I know all of that shit, but still, that's pretty good.
Hang on, but we have to realize, and we have to know that not only is that the Democratic base that's giving him positive numbers, these are people, independents and Republicans, independents who might have leaned Republican and Republicans, many of whom will not admit it, but their lives are a bit less frantic today because they don't have to look at their phone every 5 minutes for the next message by Trump. Things are less tense overall. Yes, there are all kinds of things going on in the country that, we have a trial about to occur up in Minnesota. I mean, those things are still going on. Yes, they are. But the temperature of the country in general has dropped several degrees. Would you not agree with that?
Oh my God.
Since the end. And yes, there are a lot of things that are not settled. Nothing is settled. Everything is in flux. And
No.
the more we learn about what happened on January 6th, the worse it gets. And the greater the attempts by Republicans and Trumpers to turn that into, it was just the state fair in Washington, D.C. that day. And a few people did a few things to some people and some buildings in a place, trying to make it a generic thing. And Ron Johnson, with his race shit, I mean, that's still there. And we're just at the beginning of investigating and nailing the people who are associated with this. And again, Ron Johnson, I think, is at the tip of the spear of people that I think we can reasonably think had some connection somehow with some of the implementation, the planning, the sympathy involved in what happened on January 6th. So their response is to try to deflect, to try to say, well, what about the 25 people that died over the summer all over the country in riots? How come you're not saying anything about that? Which, of course, it's a stupid question. People have said things about that.
Many
people
things
did get arrested.
Clearly.
People are being prosecuted for that and have been. And so they base it on a false premise. And Ron Johnson doubled down on Monday and wrote a column in the Wall Street Journal. And of course, the column basically says, I'm the victim. And this was not about race. It was about a riot. And of course, his actual words were not about the fact that it was a riot. It was about the fact that white people are not scary when they are rioting.
Yeah.
And they are threatening your life if you're white and Republican in the U.S. Capitol. But black people would have been scary to me, even though, again, to drill down on the accuracy of that assertion is so stupid, because he's denying what we all know is true, which is they weren't going to ask you if you were wearing an R shirt or a D shirt.
No, they're just going to kill you.
People were going to be taken hostage and they were going to get killed. And just imagine, let's just say, because we can play this game all day. Let's just say that they would have gotten in and taken 25 members of Congress hostage, 15 Democrats, 10 Republicans.
Okay.
And just like in a movie, if Scorsese directed this movie, or some of the great action directors would direct this movie.
Your John Favreau's, for example, one of those guys.
Exactly. And they had some level of sophistication, and so they go around. They don't know who everybody is, but the Democrat or Republican, Trumper, did you vote for Trump or didn't vote? And they started to separate the 25 by who could be reasonably thought to be, quote, on their side. All the Democrats, of course, not.
Mm-hmm.
And they start to release the Republicans one by one by one.
It's interesting.
And then they announce that, just like in any movie, it's, all right, if you don't do what we want, if you don't knock out the Electoral College, if you don't make Donald Trump the president, we're going to start killing one Democrat every 15 minutes.
Wow.
Every 15 minutes. And by the way, we're going to live stream it on Facebook. And of course,
because
Facebook,
why not?
Facebook would be 3 days behind in taking it off. So it would get out there. Right? They didn't know about, they don't have enough people to check what's going on. Okay?
Right.
Then Ron Johnson of course, would say, I was never scared the whole time, right? He had no reason to be scared.
Oh no, he was fine. Yeah, I was on the right side. I didn't have anything to worry about.
Right. And now the opposite of that is, what if they would have accidentally killed a Republican? Then it would have been a bad thing, right?
Oops.
Right? Right. But of course, it's not. If it would have been black people holding us hostages, they would have killed all the Republicans. So they only killed. They're coming up with these crazy excuses.
It's the dumbest. It's like the biggest hole. He continues to just dig that stupid hole. But your point is well made. It's like we're 68 or 70 days away from what happened on January the 6th, where people went and tried to murder people who were, because they couldn't accept that their guy had lost the election. Would you have ever imagined that the next guy who gets sworn in would be up around 53, 54% approval? I mean, that's not a small feat. That's a pretty big deal. That's pretty good.
Well, look, he got 53, 54% of the popular vote.
Right.
He should have ratings he should have ratings higher than that. He should have approval ratings, and the policies actually do, which that always brings up that interesting gap. Wait a minute. You like his policies. You like the check. You like the help going to restaurants. You like the money going to help open schools. You like all those kinds. You like the child tax. You like all those things. Who's responsible for that? Joe Biden, 73% like it. Oh, but it's Joe Biden, so I don't really like him.
That's right.
But I like his. Where did you think that policy was going to come from Trump if Trump was reelected? Fuck no.
Well, when you called it the Affordable Care Act, I liked it. But when you called it Obamacare, it sucked.
But
that's the deal.
That phenomenon holds now, probably.
Absolutely,
forever.
it does. Yeah.
I can hate you, but I can like the things that you do if they personally benefit me, but I can't admit it. Okay.
Exactly.
But I cannot admit that. It's one big effing mess as far as that goes. But anyway, what you got anything else, or
that's it for today? That's I've emptied my mind.
Get on our scooters and head on over to Shoney's and get ourselves a big boy.
I'm gonna head over to the record store and get that latest LP from Beyonce. That's what I'm gonna get, because she run the Grammys, from what I hear.
Yep.
See you tomorrow.